So with all right triangles exists this theorem that this dude Pythagoras discovered. So it's called the Pythagorean Theorem. It deals with legs and hypotenuse. So right triangles, we know that triangles have three sides. On a right triangle, one of them is a hypotenuse and the other two are legs. The hypotenuse is always the longest side and it's across from the right angle. So in this first picture, I can draw an arrow from my right angle to the letter C. Same thing over here. Those triangles look pretty much the same, but if I were to draw a random, that's ugly, a random triangle, I can always find the hypotenuse by drawing an arrow from my right angle to the longest side, and that ends up being C. The A and B order does not matter at all. So if we look at this picture here, we took a right triangle, and we have legs A and B, and then we also have hypotenuse C. So we squared those legs. So this length, whatever it is, maybe it's 7. This area shows 7 squared. It's making a square out of it. And if I were to drag these way over here, you'll notice that they cover the same area. So I'm doing kind of a sloppy job at it, but the combination of A squared and B squared fills the same area as C squared, which is where we get that theorem, A squared plus B squared. So example 1, do the following side lengths make a right triangle? 8, 16, and 10. I'm going to circle the biggest one because that should be my hypotenuse. So the Pythagorean theorem says A squared plus B squared equals C squared, where C is the hypotenuse. So these other two numbers, 8 and 10, can go in for A and B. And again, the order doesn't matter because 8 squared plus 10 squared is the same thing as 10 squared plus 8 squared. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a line just so I can remind myself of the left side and the right side of the equal sign. So the left side is 8 squared plus 10 squared, which I can either type directly into my calculator, or I could do 8 times 8 plus 10 times 10, which is 64 plus 100, which in my calculator is 164. On my right side, I have 16 squared, which is 256. So this does not make a right triangle. I'm going to say no, because 164 does not equal 256. If I were to technically make a triangle out of those, and I had a right angle with 8, 10, this piece, my hypotenuse, is too long. It goes too far, meaning I would have to space out that 10 and 8 and kind of spread them out a bit. So maybe it would look more like this, in which case it would be an obtuse triangle. This piece is not necessary for what we're going to be learning this year, but you might have learned it in 8th grade and it might be on the ACT. So just keep that in mind. Use your logic with it. If the hypotenuse is too big, it'll be obtuse. If the hypotenuse was too small, we would have to squeeze that 8 and 10 closer together and it would make an acute triangle. And if it's exactly the same, then it would end up being a right triangle. So final answer is no, they do not make a right triangle.